Hello there! Welcome to A World Above the Cloud, an exploration and conservation board game inspired by Ladakh, a high-altitude mountain desert in the northwestern Indian Himalayas. Designed for 1 to 6 players, A World Above the Cloud offers 3 modes of play: cooperative, competitive, and solo. While the core gameplay remains the same, each mode delivers a unique experience. In this video, you'll learn how to play competitive mode. To learn the cooperative mode, please look up our other video. Game overview. In the competitive game, you and your fellow players are storytellers, racing to tell the most stories from Ladakh. Each turn, you hike across the land to gather various elements and seeds. The storytellers must protect a set of 3 crucial elements: a wilderness, an essential, and a culture from a region, and tell its story before another player does. However, as you gather the elements, waves of hazards are triggered, destroying your precious elements. So you must be cautious, hike swiftly, plant the seeds, and become the greatest storyteller of Ladakh. The objective is simple. The first player to tell the most of the 6 stories wins. Game setup. To set up the game, gently open out the map over a flat surface at the center of the play area. The main deck consists of 90 elements and 18 hazard cards. Shuffle them together. Important: look at the deck and make sure you do not have too many hazards all together in one place. If there are, take them out and distribute them evenly back into the deck. Shuffle the deck one more time and place it face down on the main deck space. Open 6 cards from the top of the main deck and place them face up into the marked open element spaces. If any hazard cards are opened, place them aside and open more cards until all the 6 spaces are filled with element cards. Distribute the hazards back into the main deck and shuffle one more time. Add 3 seeds per player to the garden space. Total seeds equals to 3 into number of players. In this example, we'll set up the game for 3 players, thus adding 9 seeds to the garden. Place the 6 story badges in their respective regions. Remove kind spirit from the game. Shuffle the spirit cards and place them face down on the spirit deck space. Player setup. After the game is set up, players may pick their pawns and choose to start from any one of the 6 region hubs. The hubs are Leh, Kargil, Neoma, Diskit, Wanla, and Padum. Multiple players may start from the same hub. Give each player 1 competitive reference card, the one with the grey background. To determine the first player, each player rolls both the dice. The player with the lowest roll goes first. Remember, you have to start slow at high altitude. Basics. Map. Before we dive into the gameplay, let's quickly learn to read the map and element cards. The game is played on an illustrated map of Ladakh. The map is divided into 6 regions: Purik, Nubra, Sham, Zungkor, Changtang, and Zanskar. There are 4 kinds of spaces that players must count while hiking through the map. The first one is source. Sources are the boxy diamond-shaped checkpoints. Second, region hub. Hubs are larger boxy sources where players start their game. There is 1 hub per region as mentioned in the player setup. 3. Pass. Passes are the downward triangular checkpoints. 4. Null space. These are the circular checkpoints which must be counted while moving on the map, but don't yield any elements or seeds. Check the map legend for a quick reference. Basics. Element cards. There are 90 real-life elements from 6 regions in the main deck. Players gather and make sets of these elements to win the game. The top left mentions the region from which the element can be gathered. The right side denotes the type of the element. Each element is categorized into one of the 3 following types: wilderness, essential, and culture. Below the region is the location from which the card can be gathered from. The player must hike through or land on the correct source to gather the element. There are 4 types of locations. Any source. Gather when you hike through any source in that region. Any pass. Gather when you hike through any pass in that region. Specific source or pass. Gather only at the location specified on the card. For example, pottery is a culture element from Sham region, and it can only be gathered by the player who hikes through or lands on Likher. Sources on the banks of water bodies. Gather at any source adjacent to the specified river or lake. So, for example, black-necked crane is a wilderness from Changtang that can be gathered from any one of the sources adjacent to Sokar Lake. At the bottom of the card is the name of the element, the Ladakhi name and a description. These are windows into a rich and vibrant world, as well as cues for the players to create and tell stories later in the game. Gameplay intro. Players take turns going clockwise. Each turn has 3 phases in order. 1. Storyteller phase. Actions on your turn. 2. Refresh phase. End of the turn. 3. Hazard phase. Only if triggered. The hazard phase may not occur every turn. Gameplay. Storyteller action. On your turn, you can select any combination of listed actions. Hike. This is a one-time mandatory action. 2. Gather. 3. Protect. 4. Plant. 5. Barter. There is no limit to the number of actions you can take on your turn. You may take the actions in any order and take the same action multiple times, except hike. Storyteller action 1. Hike. Roll both dice and move your pawn for the total value, counting spaces excluding your starting point. You can move in any direction and cross freely between regions. Hiking is a mandatory action once per turn, so plan your route wisely. For example, you are in Leh and have a dice roll of 3. There are 7 possible destinations that you could hike to, although reaching Faye might be the most beneficial since you've hiked through 2 sources. Turning back. You can change the direction of your hike and turn back when you reach a source or a pass. You must turn back if you reach a dead end. Tip. Count the spaces and decide on the route and destination before you move your pawn. Storyteller action 2. Gather. At every source, hub or pass you hike through or land on, draw 1 seed from the garden or 1 element. If an element card is open for that location, you may collect several elements or seeds in a turn depending on your route. For example, you have hiked from X to Y on a dice roll of 8. You have passed through 3 sources and 1 pass on your path. Hence, you gather a total of 4 items. You can gather the 2 open elements from Apati Da sources and 2 seeds from the remaining source and pass. If there are no open element cards available at the sources and passes you hike through, you may gather seeds instead. You can gather only 1 element or seed per source or pass each turn. You can return to the same space in a future turn to gather again and also choose not to gather at all. There's no hand limit to how many elements or seeds you can hold. Do not open fresh element cards from the main deck as you gather elements. Do it at the end of your turn during the refresh phase. Storyteller action 3. Protect. Players must protect the gathered elements as sets to take crucial actions and win the game. There are 2 types of sets, story set and wild set, each offering 2 possible actions. One quick note, move sets to the protected space on the map before you take their actions. Protected cards are out of the game and not affected by hazards. Protect story set. Story set is a set of a wilderness, an essential and a culture element from the same region. You can use a story set to tell a story or as an advantage during a tiebreaker. Tell a story. To tell a story, you must gather a story set. 2. Lay out the 3 cards in the center and tell a story interconnecting the 3 elements. The story can be realistic, imaginative, funny, serious, and so on. Be kind, and you may ask other players for helping creating the story. So in this case, our story can be that the people of Old Town went looking for this playful river otter, but instead found this butter clay, and then they took it back to Old Town for waterproofing their charming little houses. 3. Move the set to the protected space. 4. Gain the story badge to your hand. 5. Open the top spirit card and keep it face up on top of the map. For more details, seek the Spirit Ability chapter. That's it. Gain the most of the 6 stories to win the game. Or, each additional story set a player holds in hand gives them an advantage in case of a tie at the end of the game. Protect Wild Set. Wild set is a set of 3 elements of the same type from any region. You can use a wild set as a wild card of that type or to fly. Use as wild card. You can replace the wild set as one wild card of that same type to complete a story set of any region. For example, a wild essential set is used to replace the missing essential of Zanskar and complete Zanskar's story set. However, only one element card can be replaced with a wild set, and the remaining 2 cards must be from the original region. Or fly. Protect a wild set and instantly move to any source or pass. You can gather an element card if open or a seed at the destination. Storyteller Action 4. Plant seeds for powers. Seeds are shared resources gathered from the garden. Plant the gathered seeds back in the garden and enact the following powers immediately. Hop. Move 1 extra space per seed. Move as much as you need to. Hitchhike. Plant 3 seeds to take another turn after your routine turn. However, you can gather open element cards but not seeds while hitchhiking. Fly. Plant 5 seeds to instantly move to any source or pass. You can gather an element card, if open, at the destination. Seeds are powerful resources that help you move faster, but also holding them in your hand makes you vulnerable to the hazards. More details in the hazard phase. Remember, you can plant back the seeds you've gathered in a turn within the same turn and use the powers. Also, you can take the actions in any order, so you can fly before you roll the dice and hike too. Storyteller Action 5. Barter. When you meet another player on the map, either in passing or by landing together, you may give each other elements, seeds, spirit cards and hugs, as many as you like. After the active player completes all their actions, begin the refresh phase. Gameplay. Refresh phase, end of turn. Open the top cards of the main deck face up onto the empty element spaces. If all the open cards are elements, the refresh phase ends and the player on your left begins their turn. But if a hazard card is opened, immediately initiate the hazard phase. Do not open any more cards, even if there are empty element spaces available, until the open hazard is resolved. Hazard phase if triggered. Hazard cards are based on real life issues that destroy the elements from a specific player's hand. A hazard destroys 1 or 2 elements of a particular type, either wilderness, essential, or culture. Each hazard has its effects twice, triggered in 2 waves. Hazard phase, wave 1. Wave 1 is triggered when a hazard card is opened during refresh phase. Immediately do the following to resolve the hazard. Destroy. Hazard destroys element from the player holding the highest number of seeds in their hand when the hazard is triggered. According to the hazard card, that player must find the specified element from their hand and destroy them. Remove the element and move it out of the game. For example, the hazard, let's say feral dog attack, destroys 1 wilderness element from the player holding most seeds. So here, a wilderness, blackneck crane, is destroyed and removed from the game. If the player has many elements of the same type, they can choose the element to be destroyed. Elements once destroyed are out of the game and cannot be revived. Hazard doesn't have any effect if 2 or more players equally hold the highest number of seeds. 2. The affected player does not have specific element type with them. 3. All the seeds are in the garden. In these cases, no elements are destroyed. Directly move a wave 1 hazard to the bottom of the wave 2 pile and a wave 2 hazard out of the game. Once the hazard is resolved, move the hazard card, which is face up, to the bottom of the wave 2 pile. Hazard phase wave 2. When any of the players rolls a sum of 7 during their turn, the top card of the wave 2 hazard pile is triggered. Immediately destroy as mentioned before to resolve the hazard. Once a hazard's second wave is resolved, move the hazard card out of the game and then the player can take their turn and hike for 7 spaces. If the wave 2 hazard pile is empty, rolling 7 has no special effect. Once the hazard is resolved, the affected player may plant up to 2 seeds back in the garden to avoid further hazards. Spirit ability. Each time a player gains a region story badge, open the top card of the spirit deck and place it face up at the top of the map. The open spirit ability is now common to all players. Whenever a player rolls an odd number, that is 3, 5, 7, 9 or 11, during their hike, they can choose from one of the open spirit abilities to use in that turn. The spirit abilities are as follows. Water spirit. Move 2 times your dice roll. If your starting space is adjacent to a stream, lake or river, that is, your pawn can overlap both the starting space and the water body. For example, you can move 18 spaces for a dice roll of 9. Plan your hike and stop near water to use this ability in your next turn. Air spirit. Move 2 times your dice roll. If your starting space is fully on a trekking route and not connected to a road, refer to map legend. Plan your hike and stop away from a road to use this ability in your next turn. Fire spirit. Draw the top card of the main deck. If it's an element, add it to your hand. If it's a hazard, directly move it to the bottom of the second wave hazard pile. Mountain spirit. After your dice roll, you can change one of the die value to 5. You can prevent triggering a wave 2 hazard using this ability. Life spirit. Draw 2 seeds from the garden at the start of your turn. If the garden is empty, then you get nothing. Conclusion. The game end is triggered when a player tells the most of the 6 stories, clear majority, or when the last story is told, complete the current round. The player with the most stories wins. Ties are broken in the following order. First, most story sets in hand. Second, most element cards in hand. Third, most seeds in hand. If these have not resolved the tie, then players share the victory. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you enjoy the adventure in a world above the cloud. If you have any questions, feel free to refer to the rulebook or visit floatingrockgames.com for more details. Happy hiking and storytelling!